Hello and welcome. I'm Steve Damasco, Grand Master of Steve Damasco Sheldon Studios and founder of the Strength and Honor Karate School Foundation for Kids. You know, I've said this a million times. I love watching that little intro of the monks. I get asked all the time if those monks can really do those things, like stand on one finger. Is that some sort of trick? Can they throw that pin through the glass, this little tiny pin through the glass? Can they really scale a wall? Can they do these phenomenal feats, jumping, several feet up in the air? Can they do all of those things? And the answer to that question is absolutely yes, they can do it. I've seen it. I've watched incredible feats of, athletic abilities that is just beyond most people's imagination. You got to remember that they have training methods that go back thousands of years, and most of these guys have started this martial art training since they were like 4, 5, 6 years old. I mean, they go when I do seminars for kids. I tell them that the kids do basically they get up in the morning, they clean, they eat. They only eat 2 meals a day because they're Buddhist monks, and they go to school. And they do martial arts, and they do that 6 days a week. They get 1 day a week off. So they practice for several hours. It's not like us where we practice 1 or 2 hours a day, depending on, what level of martial artist you are and how dedicated you are, that we practice 2 or 3 hours or whatever that time frame is. These people practice hours a day, hours. And it's grueling for those kids. So they can do those things. And they all specialize in certain things. So they don't do, they learn several things over the course of the years, as the young boys, but then as they get older and they get more mature and their bodies develop, they specialize in certain things that they do. So then they'll just focus on that, and the abbot or their master will then just focus on that specific thing, and they'll do a couple of other different things, but they'll really focus on certain things so that they can perform these great, incredible feats. So yes, they do things that are just beyond imagination, and many people have seen that have gone. We've taken, thousands of people over the past 17 years to the Shaolin Temple to train with these monks that do these feats. So they have witnessed it. So it's very cool. So now let's talk about my last show. My last show I talked about ADD and ADHD. And I said I was going to talk about oppositional defiance disorders today, which I am going to do. But we conducted an experiment with a teacher, and I'm not going to say which teacher, I'm not going to say which school. And it was very interesting because it's very difficult for a teacher to be able to teach a class of even 10, even 5, but 10, 15, 17, 18 kids in a class of young children that when you have kids that have ADD or ADHD in the class, and and this experiment that we did was with 5-year-old kids. It was kindergarten, and I've always said, I've been saying this for years, that they named this thing wrong. It's not attention deficit, because these kids can tell you what's going on in a room at any given time, like anything that's going on. It appears that they're not paying attention to anything, because they'll say, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. The teacher's trying to get their attention because they're bouncing all over the place, and they're not, obviously it appears that they're not paying attention, but they'll know what's going on. They'll know a little Susie and Johnny and somebody walks into the room, they can tell you what's happening at any given moment. And we did a little experiment, and I got one of the teachers to try this, and it actually happened. And she teaches 17 kids, 17 5-year-old kids. And what she did was this is very cool, and this is recent, is there's a part time where they have to read, and then they have to talk about the story and give feedback on the story. So there were 2 kids that are severely ADD and ADHD, and I mean, they bounce all over the place. So one little girl, they put a rubber band around the ankles where the little girl could, you can't see my feet, but a big rubber band, and the little girl was able to sit and just move the rubber band. At no time did she ever look at the teacher while the teacher was reading. So she's moving this rubber band all over the place, she's kicking it, she's stretching it out, and then there was a whiteboard, and she colored the whiteboard just colored it all with a color and let the other kid, it was a boy, erase the board, kept erasing it. And then as soon as that was erased, she would color it all over again real quickly. It only took a second, and kept letting him erase it, okay? So this went on through the entire, during the reading of the story. She would stop at different intervals of the story and then ask questions. Every single question she asked any of those kids, those two kids. She asked other kids other than those two ADD and ADHD kids, but every single time, not once out of two or two out of three, every time she asked one of those two kids a question about the story that was being read, they were spot on. Think about that for a second. At no time did any one of those two kids make eye contact with the teacher during the reading of the story. At all. So they were preoccupied. They sat there, but they were preoccupied, one with a rubber band, one just going crazy, erasing this thing, coloring it, erasing it, coloring, erasing it, not ever making eye contact, totally preoccupied, not looking at the teacher, but could answer the questions to the story that was being read. I've been saying this for years. Very interesting. So if you are a teacher, or you are a parent listening to this television show, you might want to suggest that, because it's very difficult for teachers that have kids that have ADD and ADHD kids in the room, or just kids in general that are bouncing all over the place, that if you can give them something to occupy them and just try this, because it worked with two kids, and they didn't move, they moved around, they didn't leave their seat, but they were given something to do while the story was being read, both of those kids were able to answer those questions. Very interesting. And I got this teacher to try it. What did she have to lose? And it worked. So I was very, very, very excited to hear that. Now she does this all the time. She doesn't do the same task all the time, so she'll switch different things around so they don't get bored with it, because they get bored very easily. So having said that, I'm going to move on. Today, I brought some notes with me so that we could talk about text, okay? The definition of text in terms of oppositional defiance disorders. I have a whole definition of this, and I'll tell you why. Because having been in the martial art business for 45 years and teaching, I was a chief instructor for 9 years. I've trained thousands of kids, okay? I'm going to talk about what the symptoms are. What are the symptoms of oppositional defiance disorder? Okay. Because this is actually a psychological term, okay, which falls under the healthcare practitioners and the healthcare system. Okay, one, what are the symptoms? Symptom number one, not necessarily in this order, throwing repeated temper tantrums. Okay, now, what does that mean? What is it? Why does the kid do that? Why does the kid? When and why does that kid throw a temper tantrum? They're not walking with you, and then all of a sudden there's an outburst. There's a reason why they do that. Reason usually number one, they wanted something, you said no. Okay? That could be anything. They wanted something at the grocery store, right? They threw a temper tantrum because you wouldn't give it to them. Okay? How many times have I seen that happen? 1,000,000 times at the grocery store. Hate going to the grocery store, not because of that, because I get lost there. It takes me, what takes my wife 10 minutes takes me an hour. But anyway, having said that, okay, that they said no. So what does a parent usually do? Not always. Gives them what they want so they're not screaming. Very bad, okay? Two, it's usually no, okay, when you say no to a kid. They throw a temper tantrum. In school, same thing. And I've talked to, again, a lot of teachers. I've been in 100 schools, talked to many teachers. Usually when a kid is told no, or they can't do something, or something is taken away from them, or a kid won't give them the toy that they want, they throw a temper tantrum. Temper tantrums is one of the major components of symptoms of somebody, what they call oppositional defiance disorders, okay? Now, why is it, okay, when we have a child that's been coded with that, they bring them to our school. Again, okay, our kids have been trained, our instructors have been trained to deal with with kids with special needs. Okay, I hate using that term again, but kids with special needs. That if that symptom happens outside the martial arts school, that when we have them in the school, that when we say no to them, no, can we do this game today? No. Okay, that we don't have a problem with that, that we can get them to control that. So if it's a real symptom, if it is a real issue, then why is it that we can get that? It's not mental illness, as some healthcare practitioners have claimed that it could be mental illness. We don't believe that. I don't believe that as a healthcare, as somebody with a psychology degree, a graduate degree in psychology. Because if it was mental illness, or it was really that kind of a problem, which I don't believe, there is mental illness, and then it can happen. But I don't believe that the majority of those cases are that, having dealt with thousands of kids. Because if they're coded that, they come into our school, and then we can get them to do the right thing without them throwing a temper tantrum, then why is that so? Number two, excessive arguing with adults. What does that mean? It refers to the one I just talked to you about. What are they arguing about? They're arguing about the fact that you said no to them again. No, they can't have that game. No, they can't play that game today. No, they can't have that thing at the grocery store. No, they can't have that toy that the other kid was playing with in school. No, they can't have recess today because their behavior in school wasn't bad. It's no. It's no. So what happens? They were arguing with adults. What do they argue with adults about? They don't want to eat what you put on their plate. It's time to eat dinner. I don't want to eat dinner right now because I'm playing this game with, I'm playing online with a game. Same thing. It's something that they're doing, okay, that they don't want to do at that moment. What are they doing with you as an adult? They're arguing with you. Basically, it boils down to no again. Now, same thing here. We're at the karate, we're in one of my martial arts studios. Okay, kid wants to play dodgeball. What does the instructor say? Yeah, we can play dodgeball. Maybe we'll play dodgeball today. You know what that'll depend on? That will depend on how well you do in class today. And I will tell you, okay, we are not in a reward-based system at our schools. They do have to perform, okay, what is required of them for that day. And they know what's going to be required of them for that day because that is spelled out. In order to be able to get the reward, to be able to play that dodgeball game. We have fun, they enjoy themselves, it's motivating, okay? But in order to be able to do something that's not martial art related at that moment, I mean at the end of that day, at the end of that class, they have to be able to perform. They don't get to perform, okay, just simply because, well, I want to do that. But guess what? They don't throw a tantrum. Do you know why they don't throw a tantrum? You know why they don't argue? Because they know that they can do that all day long, and that black belt instructor is not going to bend. We are not going to bend. They know that. So why is it they don't do it with us? If it's a real illness, and they'll do it outside the martial arts studio. It doesn't make sense. Number three, actively refusing to comply with requests and rules. Same thing. We're back to no again. Rules and requests. Johnny, pick up your room. Johnny, get off the television. Johnny, get off that game. Johnny, it's time to eat dinner. Johnny, we have to go to karate. I don't want to go to karate. Do you know how many times? I wish I had just a penny for every time I've heard that. Now that's really going against what I do for a living. Right? But do you know how many times I've heard that? Kids need boundaries, of course, to a child. And then we ask the parent when they say that to us, because we've had obvious kids that quit school, the karate school. Why? Because the parent doesn't want to argue with the child. Every single time I hear this, parent doesn't want to argue with the child. And we say to Mrs. Jones, when you get him here or her there, do they have a great time? Yes. Have they benefited from the program? Yes. But I don't want to argue with them. What do I say? I don't want to argue with them. Kids need boundaries. Kids need rules. I know it's hard for you as a parent. But what's going to happen when they get older? I have seen the results of that. 45 years in this. I've seen it. I've seen it. And I've seen the results of this from kids in college today. You know what's the matter with a lot of kids in college today? They can't deal with consequences. They can't deal with conflict. They really can't. It's a major issue today. It really is. Do you know I won't hire a college kid that hasn't been in the workforce for at least a year? I've tried it. They don't understand what the real world is like. It's very, very difficult. Number 4, deliberately trying to annoy or upset others or being easily annoyed by others. Let me repeat that. Deliberately trying to annoy or upset others or being easily annoyed by others. Okay, if they're deliberately trying to annoy or upset others, why would they do that? They're frustrated. Why are they frustrated? They want something that somebody else has. Why would they do that? Or they've had a bad day. Teacher said no. Something happened in that class. They wanted something or wanted to do something that day in class that they couldn't do. I hear this all the time. So what do? Or I can't tell you how many times it's time to put on your coat, okay, because it's time to go out for recess. It took too long. So what happens? It took 10 minutes longer or 5 minutes longer to get that coat on because they were in a bad mood. They had a bad morning at home, okay? Took a long time. They're in a bad mood coming to school to get that coat on, so they missed half their recess. So by the time they get out there, they're already in a bad mood, okay? So what are they going to do? They're going to annoy somebody else. Behavior. Is this genetic? Is this mental illness? No, it's not any of those things. It really isn't. It's so difficult. I understand that it's so difficult. Next thing. And being annoyed by others. That's, they can get, when they're already in a bad mood, when kids are already in a bad mood, we know this as parents. They can get easily agitated by other people for very, very simple things. Again, why doesn't this happen in the school? It does. I mean, we have kids that come in and we see them and something will happen and we can see that they're in a bad mood. Immediately, the instructors are trained to spot this and we immediately take care of it. We immediately do. We had a situation in a school, in one of the schools in Massachusetts, so years ago. We used to take strike. We're in this difficult position with that because we have parents. We have a striping system in terms of like a motivational striping for good behavior. It's not a ranking system. It's for that. It's just a behavior thing. And we don't like taking stripes away. We don't like taking something away that's been earned. We can prevent them from getting more stripes for behavior, if they don't perform. But we don't like taking something away that's been earned. So if that happens, that's fine. But we do have parents that want us to take a stripe away. So we never override the parent. We try to explain to them why that's not a good process. But if the parent's insistent, okay, parents will take the stripe away. So we had a situation where one of the instructors from this state went to another state, and he's used to taking stripes away because there are several parents here that want to take stripes away. He took one away and the parent got mad. It was in the state of Massachusetts. She got mad and said, why would you take something away that the kid had already earned? Well, we corrected that situation. I don't believe in taking anything away something is earned. And the kid was extremely, okay, having an issue in that school. He was agitating, irritating another kid. He kept putting his hands on this other kid. He was like 8 years old. And the instructor several times said, stop doing that, stop doing that, stop doing that. And he talked to them and he wouldn't do it. So we have another way of handling that. So what we did was we took the stripe away. The kids stopped doing it when we did that. But the parent didn't like that. We have another way of handling that. So we obviously went to Plan B. We are in a reward-based system in this country, okay? You got to understand, in a martial art world, how much time do I have left, Rick? 9 minutes? Yes, sir. In a martial art world, they have to earn what they get. We don't just give them rank. Not in this system. Not in this karate school. They have to earn that rank. It's an individual thing. It doesn't depend on 4 other guys on a basketball game or 8 other guys on a baseball team, okay? And I don't, believe me, I played organized sports and so did all my boys. This is an individual thing. They have to earn it, okay? But we are in a reward-based system. We don't give them things for doing what they're supposed to do. My kids did, I'm not criticizing anybody, but having grown up in martial arts my whole life and understanding that this system is that we are in a reward-based system, because it's like you get an A, you get money. You get a B, maybe you get some money. Well, you're supposed to get an A. You're supposed to get a B. That's why the Asians are killing us, in terms of global education. They don't get rewarded for expecting, because they get great grades. They're expected to get those grades. They're expected to do well. And they do well. It's an honor. It's a privilege to go to great schools in China. And only the best of the best get to go to the better schools. And that's why they're filled in Harvard and the Yales and the MITs. But we, I'm not criticizing anybody, but we are in the, you do well, you get that. You do chores, you get an allowance. I didn't give my kids an allowance. I didn't believe in allowances. That was personal decision. If you wanted to, mom homeschooled. That's her job. She took care of the house. That's what she did. I earned the money. That was my job. And it was their job to contribute. It was their job to contribute to help around the house. They didn't get paid for that. But on their time of play, if they wanted to take that play time and earn money and do extra chores, I paid them for that. So it's kind of like the philosophy of the karate school. They do well. They have to earn those belts. And they have to earn that good behavior, and they want it, and it's motivating to them. That's why I don't believe that this is a genetic issue, and that's why I don't believe that it has to do with the neurotransmitters bouncing back and forth. I believe that for ADD and ADHD, but I don't believe that for oppositional defiance disorders, because everyone that's been coded, that's coming to our schools, and I've had schools all over the country and taught thousands of kids, we have been able to work with that behavior and correct it. The other thing is blaming others for their mistakes. Same thing. I didn't do that. Every kid's going to do that. You don't have to have an oppositional defiance disorder to blame somebody else. I did that. Nobody wants to take blame for that. So I'm going to cross that one right off the list. Okay? Being spiteful and seeking revenge. Bad one. That's a bad one. That's a kid that's very angry. That's bullying. And I've gone off on the bullying thing for years. Okay? On how to deal with bullying. Okay? Email me if you want me to cover that again. I'll be happy to go over the bullying thing again. Still a major issue. It's still huge. Active shooters with kids, every single one in the country other than one that I know of, and I had the I had the files on all of them, had been severely bullied. Not the only thing involved. Mental health issues were involved in that too. Obviously, you can't be sane and do the things that these kids do when they go in and start shooting. Okay, but every one of them had been severely bullied. So, seeking revenge is a very, very, very bad thing, and it does. And I cross that over with mental health issues. Swearing and using obscene language. You know what? I'm not going to even put that under oppositional defiance disorder. That's a learned behavior. Does it cross over to oppositional being defiant? Yeah, maybe, yes. Sometimes, yes, absolutely. But that's I was talking to another kindergarten teacher, and she just last week, and she came up to me and she said, I wasn't expecting this when the kid was 5 years old. Oh, Jimmy said a bad word, Mrs. So-and-so. And he did, and what did he say? I can't say it. Well, what was it? Because she was never expecting this. And the kid whispered in here, he said F. And she actually said the word. She was like shocked. She wasn't expecting the kid to say that 5 years old. Where did he learn that? Where did the kid learn that? So, is that oppositional defiance? No, it's a learned behavior. I myself am guilty of that as well. I got 3 minutes left. Believe me, I'm going to end with this. No martial arts today, okay? I got 3 minutes left. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm the worst. I was the worst. My boys are like 2 years old, okay? You're going to love this one, Rick. I'm 2 years old. I'm in my office. I didn't think it was soundproof, but it was way in the back. I had a decently big house. I had an office in the back. And I'm going, these other guys, I had 50 schools. It was a stressful time, and I'm going off and off at different times, I got schools in 3 states. I had 50 some odd schools. And I got up in the morning and I come out and there's my boys, my 2 little twins, Michael and Nico, and they're in front of the fireplace. And Kelly, my wife Kelly, would every morning, every night, okay, religiously would set up every one of their little farm guys. She was an incredible mother, okay, and then she would set up all their little cars. Those, what do you call those little cars? Huh? Matchbox, yeah, little matchbox cars, Rick. And she would set them all up, and all the little animals, had to be 50 of them anyway. You don't need all this. Anyway, so it would be all set up every single day, 7 days a week. So I come walking downstairs, And I'm standing there listening to them talk to each other. And they're 2 years old, and they're going, Mikey, can you believe that car? And Nico goes, can you believe that car? And they go back and forth with the F word. And they have no idea what they're saying, but they're using the F word back and forth at 2 years old. Can you believe that? And I walk up, I'm looking at this thing, trying to keep a straight face, you know? And I have great kids. They had no idea what kind of word that was. They were 2 years old, but they're back and forth talking to each other about the matchbook cars using the F word. And I'm saying, I look at Nico, I look at them both, I said, boys, and they're looking up at Dad. Now they look down at me because they're all over 6'4", okay? Nico's 6'6", and that started at 13. That's pretty sad. But anyway, I look at the boys and I say to them, boys, that is not a good word. That word that you're using is a very bad word. And Nico, as usual, gives me, and it hasn't changed at 25 years old, gives me this grin, okay, as if to say, Dad, at 2 years old, Dad, you use that word all the time. He didn't say that, but I knew exactly what that grin meant. I said, I know, Nico, Dad uses that word all the time, not all the time, but a lot, and I'm not going to say it anymore because it's a bad word. Are we clear, boys? Yes, Dad. That's the end of that story, okay? So I like to consider myself a reasonably good person, but we all do it. So is that oppositional defiance disorder? No. So you know what? We do great things in our schools, okay? I don't believe in this, all right? This is a behavior that can be corrected, all right? Thanks for listening to me, and we'll be back next week. Have a great week. Thank you.